Hostage Diaries, year 15, 20. Who really knows? It's a life of slavery, let's call it. Hidden in the catacomb bubbles of lost reality, hidden existences. You can call it a number of things. Basically, we were driven poorly, mismanaged, in order to be exploited. You can call it 4-H if you want to. We were just some fattened cows. But in actuality, it's more like robbing a bank. Let's say you find somebody, hey, that dude's president of a bank. I think we're going to kidnap him, throw him in the trunk, and put somebody else in his place. And then, when he gets in there, we're going to give away all the bank's money and burn that motherfucker to the ground. Call that freedom. That's basically what's been going on. Then transfer all the assets to other banks, burn that motherfucker down, and bury the bodies deep in the bayou. That's basically what's been going on. It's a marathon. Party fat. The marathon never ends. The problem is, it's a global bank. You're accessing assets from Latin America and Europe because of what's called accounting and math. You know, that's part of it, accounting and math balance sheets. And so the marathon party domestically, you know, all these games and sports and idols and party, where does that value come from? That bank, Jacob Bolero here, the ritual sacrifice, 4-H? I think not. So what's going on is this party is creating a bunch of individual wealth, but you're not doing anything with it. It's, you know, it's free, you know, it's free radical individual wealth. And the problem is you're costing the stability in order to accomplish this. And then you've got this, the horrific empathy. I could talk forever about empathy. Pathy. And ExxonMobil definitely sponsors my empathy because they get paid, or not just them. That's just one because they have the EM there. But the initials, EM, pathy, empathy. Teaching someone to look, but why would I need to look through so many diverse eyes for so long? And they're teaching lessons at Harvard prices, obviously. You know, we're paying, just exorbitant rates because of the crooked accounting and math. And the assembly line is churning. You know, during all this process, the assembly line never stops, never sleeps. You know, you keep that assembly line 24. That's the marathon. It's a marathon assembly line producing plastic goods. I mean, all sorts of goods. There's got to be some value there. The problem is the system itself is so corrupt. You know, it's completely lost any sense of reality because of cop killing. Basically, you got a bunch of rent-a-cops moved in and killed a bunch of real cops, and now they're trying to justify the valuation. You know, and all that, in all honesty. So the empathy, just absolutely off the charts. You know, empathy and beautician, vain, pride, reverence, all this sort of things. Trying to learn, you know, I think I've paid my fair share in empathy here, the reverence. Years and years. Well, actually, the empathy is a plan B because the plan A was me being a motherfucking corpse. Dead meat. You know, that was plan A. Then the rest of the family gets easily shuffled under the rug, and they're steered around. The energy is diverted into the refined process, as you might be. And the clones take over the world. I don't know. Who knows? Eventually, if I would have died, though, something would have happened because it would have transferred power from one sector to the other. But I think you would have had a civil war between sides of my family. So now you got this whole mentality. But another question is with the empathy. But it's bad economic system. We're trying to claim to be like farming. You know what farming is? A planned state. But what the society has become is predatory, hunter-gatherers. So for the most part, we're hunter-gatherers. We kill fucking farmers. That's a mistake right there, you know, but it's basically because of the predatory law, which is because you're a bunch of cop killers. You killed a bunch of cops. You don't like accounting. You don't like math. Anybody can buy politicians, you can buy cops, you can buy lawyers, you can buy anything. Anything and everything's for sale. And you just hide it all as, oh, whatever the populace wants is automatic right, regardless of the math and accounting. I just happen to supply a lot of the money through me, the validator, and not necessarily pleased with the thing about it. That's where it gets into there. Now they're trying to transfer power out of me into a lifetime of pillaged possessions, which are all gone, and the games and the schemes. So what they did was, like I said, I was run through this dungeon maze and stabbed and speared a whole bunch of times but it was really more like they planted a bunch of egg sacs in me. It was like I was planted with body snatchers, and those body snatchers grew up and exported, or I blew up. And so now that they've basically cornered the market on my body. Basically, they tattooed every inch inside and out. We got the communal organ banks inside. All my blood's distributed. My skin is all my senses are distributed. My dopamine's distributed. My heart, my lungs, my organ, everything. Everything. I get nothing except bubble boy. Sensory depraved. And so now it starts on trying to pay the bills or the accountability to it, because there was a lot more to this. There was a lot under the surface. You can call it natural resources all you want, but this is it would be like going into the Louvre and digging a well into the Louvre. We got some old stuff. That's crude, that's crude primitive art, but we're gonna melt it down and make some new products, rebrand it, and throw it on the shelf at Costco, that sort of mentality. And so it's access keys to these high value, it's the high value. And then you can call it uranium, but there's a lot of radiation floating around, if you know what I mean, the distribution of this. And it goes back to this mismanagement key. I mean, it was basically go out and play in a minefield, reverent there by the hippies. And so I was thrown out into the minefield, completely gutted, butchered, lost all my feelings, turned into a mat, and then thrown out there to be walked over as the key. I'm the key. I hold my thumb. They chopped my arm off and stuck it on the keyhole there, so it opens the door for anybody to stampede over me, and the disease takes over and does the dirty work. So then you get into another funny thing, implied investments. Since I am now stuck, I can't go anywhere. I do not have I would like to be in the mountains somewhere. I'd like to be in the Caribbean. I'd like to be in Europe. I'd like to be in Asia, South America, Africa, Australia. But no, I got to sit here in a garage because I'm a hostage, because they done produce too many assembly line clones, and we got to the source is the omega, but all the clones take precedence, and so I gotta validate the source by being a hostage. That hostage necessity, because you were a bunch of freeloaders. Freddy the Freeloader, Red Skelton, just watching sketches, or Freddie Miles Davis. Sure, I paid for that kind of blue. Freddie Freeloader on there, Les Miserables. Yeah, sure, I paid a ton of that. That's that horrible investment once again, LSU. Or the funny Will Arnett commercials with the tiger stripe Lamborghini. Worked for Will Arnett for Nokia, AT&T. AT&T had the commercials last year with the kidnapped mascot tiger eating in the, that sort of thing. But nobody cares. Well, the problem is they're not willing to, their solidarity, honor among scams, basically. They don't want to pay their freeloaders. They don't want to pay a cent for that rights, whatever they might get. But see, they're getting screwed on the end anyway. They're just producing goods. That's why Louisiana's an industrial state. They're high value, producing high value goods, even though it doesn't seem that way. But when you look into the mystical value wizardry of the goods produced, then that's where you get into that. That's that superpowered magic carpet jet fuel and high potency, Parish gasoline, that sort of thing. Then you get into all sorts of schemes. Oh, another back to the body snatcher mentality. The exoskeleton. Oh, well, this is the implied investment in time. Since I am forced to, whatever I watch, therefore, validates my resources being allocated to that sector. Even though I would rather be doing something else, not allowed to. I got to sit here and pick and choose what to invest in. That's that misinterpretation because I can't touch anything. It's always been, we are so evolved that we're alien wizards. We only use our minds, we can't use our tongue, can't talk. It's either evolved or unevolved. We're either animals that can't talk or we're super evolved aliens that use the mind control. Either way, it's a beautician reverend right there. You're playing, that's the middle ground. So you got implied investment of time invested into the things that I watch because I can't go out and do it. I can't do nothing. Can't do anything. So time watches validates. Or same thing with the rest of my family. Whatever they accomplish, that's why golf is so highly, highly valued. Because my father spent a lot of time playing golf. So that precedence is set. Even though he doesn't have a clue. If you told the man, you're worth $1 billion. But, what do you think he would on? You're a state. I told it. I said, get an estate plan. No, I don't know. I have no idea. The man's lost. He's been beaten down, brainwashed. Louisiana is a black hole, without a doubt. They brainwash their hostages really bad. I mean, literally. I mean, I've seen it. I've been part of it. I think it's part of the pollution of Baton Rouge has some really brainwashing capability. But yeah, if you'd have told him you're worth $1 billion, what do you think? That's the mismanagement there. That's the figure it out. You got to dig it up in the yard like a dog. Dig them jewels up, cousin Eddie, and we'll go play at the dirt casino. Yeah, that's the mentality. So these exoskeletons. This is another example of healthcare manipulation of intent. So the exoskeletons, like bike mates, shoulder pads, and I am a fan of sport. And like I said, all the paid athletes, which I pay for through my bank, and all the paid entertainers of Hollywood could all fit in one stadium. We're talking about a small number. It's the rest of, I want to know my estate contribution to the shoulder pads, the Fenway partner helmets, all that sort of stuff, because it's a bad investment in my case if it's wrecking the global economy. It's the daredevil helmets. If you're going to be a jackass and just do stupid stuff and you have magic liability insurance and magic helmets that would wreck other assets globally, that's I'd cancel that policy right there and then there. But that's where you get into shadow games. So you got these exoskeletons, and then you have bone density drugs like Boniva, and I can't remember. There were several bone density drugs. I'm a blob. Basically, my body is turned into nothing but a big pile of fat. That's all I am. All the muscle's gone. All the organs are used. I don't even get the skin. It's just the blob. I'm a big pile of fat. Nothing but just lay there like fat on a log. That's it. Nothing more. Everything's been sold off and given away. My entire body. Bones included. All the bone density, everything I get, gone somewhere else. So the drugs that are derived from my bone density being transferred out, are they being transferred into these exoskeleton helmets and pads? Question. Bike, owned by Russell, owned by Berkshire Hathaway. Bike of Atlanta, Georgia there. Athletic gear. What is my contribution to that? And where is my motherfucking royalty check? I know, it goes to my pimps. I don't get to touch nothing because I ain't got no hands, right? It's that diverted principal asset, right? I'm I'm the low, even though I provide it, I'm the low man on the totem pole, so I don't get none of the proceeds, right? Because I get last. I get to eat last. I get everything that works because that's your crazy stupidity gamble. Another funny part is the biggest gamblers don't necessarily have casinos. You know, honestly, if you look at some of the biggest gamblers, there'll be states without the casinos. Um, that's another interpretation. So the bone density, you know, that's another reason. I live right next to a high-rise care for the elderly. I'm sure that is just a massive drain on me. The drug. The worst thing possible would be to have doctors in my family. To be quite honest with you, worst thing possible, especially a joint doctor, which would be considered like transportation. Then you've got transportation, and Louisiana provides a lot of oil. So what's it gonna do? I mean, it's just a huge conflict of interest. If you know what I mean, it would be like, I mean, honestly, that's just one of the worst. But just to be connected to the pharmaceutical industry at all is just, it's a killer. It's killer. We're lab rats. Then he goes back to another schematic of this that, well, you got the distribution of assets, implied investment of time, because I sit here and watch TV or do stupid stuff I'm on a puppet string anyway. I only got very few options. So, I mean, it just doesn't mean it. And it goes back to the reality bites. Remember how she used to run up stuff on that Royal Dutch Shell oil card. The funny part was when they did that film of hers in Reality Bites, Pizza Hut was the sponsor. And that was a truism because it killed, they're basically draining assets from that sort of thing. Um, so then it gets into the MedUSA complex of like, so to be perceived as infallible. Well, the problem is the math doesn't add up. You've got too many VIPs. You know what I mean? You got way too many chosen clones produced. You're producing these high value clones. It would be like producing a ton of Aston Martins and Rolls Royces. Everybody's got, I mean, a lot of them. And for really, really cheap prices. I mean, really putting the screw, to the accounting, cheap material, all that sort of thing. So then you've got the MedUSA complex. It's like anything that goes wrong, they don't want any retribution to prove the infallibility. It's like the scare tactic or the infallibility complex of anything that goes wrong. Of course they beat me. I'm the beautician, or my family pays. We pay for everything saddled on us. We get beat like a fucking slave. That's beautician reverence there, for anything that goes wrong. So the other thing is they want the world to just stand there and still, like the MedUSA complex, to prove, well, it was such horrific mismanagement. Terrible, terrible, horrific mismanagement. So in order to try to validate the mismanagement, they got to turn the world into the Medusa Gorgon, make the world stand still and respect their authority, like Cartman, that sort of mentality. It just doesn't make any sense. So I get beat most of the time as a beautician for anything that goes wrong, whether it be natural causes, whether it be some freak show that, murders a bunch of people. Of course, beat me. I just, that's the miracle equation, the reverent, a high value that you could just abuse the shit out of in order to prove that your clones ain't never wrong. That's magic there. Well, that's magic, meth, fast. That's why you're getting so skinny with the deficit and all that. Well, you produced a bunch of high-value targets. The problem is the ship is sinking and it's on fire, and you got a ton of weight you're carrying around, and you're burning all the bridges globally. So you should have put out the fire, first of all, but you wanted to party. You wanted to be the VIP party people. So you wanted to you didn't want to put out the fire because you think that's a status symbol, and the party just rages, and you don't want to patch the leak, just want to keep sailing around till it sinks. The logic is bewildering at best. I mean, honestly, because the world is getting worse and worse and worse, and the only, I mean, it truly is just crazy. I guess I'm empathy for that too. Empathy. I mean, that's another. Empathy could be seen as beautician reverence also, because I pay for everything. Or seeing through. I mean, just things that don't really matter. You know, I mean, I've been empathy to the low, you know, I've been empathy to the low for so long now, but what am I really learning here? I mean, in actuality, it's more of just a hostage time constraint, while the marathon assembly line party produces a ton of high value credit card clones. That's what this is all about. Keeping the marathon party going to produce a ton of high value clones.